The rope around Sarah's wrists cuts deep enough to draw blood, but she stopped feeling pain hours ago. What she feels now is worse. The cold stares of wolves she once called family, as they drag her toward the border stone. The weight of betrayal pressing against her chest until breathing becomes a battle she's not sure she wants to win. Keep moving. Alpha Aldrich's voice carries no warmth, no hint that he once bounced her on his knee when she was a pup, called her little songbird, promised her father he would protect her always. That was before the blood debt, before her father's death left her as the only currency valuable enough to pay what was owed. Sarah stumbles over a root, and rough hands shove her forward. Laughter ripples through the escort party. 6 wolves from Thornwood, her birth pack, delivering her like a sack of grain to their oldest enemy, the Blackmore pack. Even the name sends ice through her veins. Every pup in the territory grows up hearing stories of Blackmore's savagery, how they train their young in blood and bone, how weakness is carved out with claws and fire, how wolves who enter their territory are never seen again, and now she belongs to them. There, Aldrich announces, pointing toward the massive border stone carved with ancient treaty marks. They're waiting. Sarah's stomach drops as she sees them. A dozen Blackmore warriors stand in perfect formation, their bodies thick with muscle and scarred from countless battles. They wear black, leather, and iron, their eyes cold as winter steel. But they're not what makes her blood freeze. It's the figure standing apart from the others. He's tall, taller than any wolf she's ever seen, with shoulders broad enough to block the dying sun. Black hair falls across a face carved from shadow and sharp edges, cheekbones like blades, a jaw set in stone. He wears no crown, no marking of rank, but power radiates from him like heat from a forge. The Alpha King of Blackmore. Sarah's wolf, dormant for months, under the weight of starvation and despair, suddenly stirs. A whimper echoes through her mind, and she feels something she hasn't felt since they threw her in chains. Alive. She feels alive. Alpha Aldrich. The king's voice is deep and cold, carrying the weight of absolute authority. You're late. The girl slowed us down. Aldrich shoves Sarah forward, and she crashes to her knees on the rocky ground. As agreed, 1 Omega to settle the blood debt. She's yours now. Sarah keeps her eyes fixed on the dirt, her pulse thundering so hard she can hear it in her ears. She waits for rough hands to grab her, for growled orders, for the casual cruelty she's learned to expect. Instead, silence stretches across the border like a held breath. She feels him approach before she sees him. The air shifts, thickens, charged with something electric that makes her skin prickle. His scent reaches her next, pine and midnight, and something wild that makes her wolf keen with desperate longing. Mate. The word echoes through her mind, but it can't be right. She must be delirious from hunger, from exhaustion, from the trauma of watching everything she knew crumble to ash. Boots appear in her vision, fine leather, well-worn but carefully maintained. He crouches before her, and she feels the heat of his proximity like standing too close to a bonfire. Look at me. His command is quiet but absolute. Sarah's body obeys before her mind can protest. Her eyes lift to meet his, and the world stops spinning. Gold. His eyes are pure molten gold, burning with an intensity that steals the breath from her lungs. And in those eyes, she sees something that makes no sense at all. Recognition. Hunger. Relief. Like a man dying of thirst who finally found water. It's you, he breathes, so soft only she can hear. His hand rises toward her face, then stops, fingers trembling inches from her cheek. My king? One of his warriors steps forward uncertainly. Is something wrong? The king straightens abruptly, his expression slamming shut like a fortress gate. When he speaks again, his voice carries across the clearing with cold authority. The debt is settled. He turns to Aldrich, and Sarah sees the Thornwood Alpha flinch. Leave my territory. Now. Of course. Aldrich's relief is palpable as he backs away, already turning toward home. He doesn't look at Sarah. None of them do. She watches her pack abandon her without a single glance backward, and something inside her chest cracks and falls silent. Tavern. The king's voice cuts through her grief. See that she's brought to the fortress. Handle her carefully. A scarred warrior steps forward, his expression professionally blank, but not cruel. Yes, Alpha King. As she's lifted to her feet, Sarah catches one last glimpse of the king's face. He's staring at her with those burning amber eyes, and the raw emotion there makes her chest ache. He looks like a man who just found something precious, and like a man terrified of what that means. The journey into Blackmore territory takes 3 days. Sarah walks until her feet bleed, then walks some more. The warriors around her move with tireless efficiency, their massive forms shifting between human and wolf as the terrain demands. They don't speak to her, but they don't mock her either. A small mercy she hadn't expected. Tavern stays close, his watchful eyes scanning constantly for threats. Once, when she stumbles badly on a rocky slope, his hand catches her elbow with surprising gentleness. "Steady," he murmurs. "Not far now." She wants to ask where they're going, what will happen when they arrive, what the king meant when he looked at her like she was his salvation and his doom wrapped in one. But questions feel dangerous here, so she swallows them down and keeps walking. On the second night, her body finally surrenders. One moment she's placing one foot in front of the other, the next, the ground rushes up to meet her, and darkness swallows everything whole. She wakes to warmth and movement. Strong arms cradle her against a chest that radiates heat like a furnace. That scent surrounds her again, pine and midnight and wild, and her wolf purrs with contentment so deep it frightens her. Sira's eyes flutter open, and she finds herself staring at the underside of the king's jaw. He carries her like she weighs nothing, his stride steady and sure despite the treacherous mountain path. "You're awake." His voice rumbles through his chest, vibrating against her cheek. "I can walk," she whispers, though her limbs feel like water. "You can barely breathe." His arms tighten fractionally. "Rest." "My king, allow me." Tavern appears beside them. "It's not fitting for you to carry a—" I said rest. The words aren't directed at his warrior, but they carry enough command to silence any argument. Sarah should protest. Every rule of pack hierarchy screams that this is wrong, dangerous, a liberty she has no right to accept. But exhaustion pulls at her like chains, and his warmth seeps into her frozen bones. And before she can form another thought, sleep claims her again. When she wakes the second time, they've arrived. The fortress rises from the mountain itself, all black stone and iron spires that claw at the churning sky. Torches flicker along the battlements, casting dancing shadows that make the walls seem alive. It looks less like a home and more like a warning given form. "Abandon hope," it seems to whisper. "You belong to Blackmore now." The king sets her down gently in the main courtyard, steadying her when she sways. For one breath, his hand lingers at her waist, burning through the thin fabric of her dress. Then he steps back, and the cold rushes in to fill the space he left. "Welcome to Blackmore, little wolf." A new voice slides through the air, like oil on water. Sira turns to find a man approaching from the great hall. He shares the king's dark hair and sharp features, but where the king's face is granite, this man's is smooth and polished, handsome, in a way that feels practiced, dangerous in a way that feels hidden. His pale blue eyes assess her with casual contempt. "Is this the blood debt payment?" He circles her slowly, and she feels his gaze like fingers on her skin. "Thornwood scraps. How generous of them." "Varric." The king's voice carries warning. "I'm merely curious, brother." Varric stops before her, tilting his head. What possible use could she be? She's half-starved, clearly untrained, and her wolf is so weak I can barely sense it. "She's none of your concern." "Everything in Blackmore is my concern." Varric's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "Or have you forgotten who kept this pack together while you were gone? Who built what you inherited?" The tension between them crackles like lightning before a storm. Sarah shrinks back instinctively, her wolf cowering at the barely contained violence in the air. "Tavern!" The king's command snaps like a whip. "Take her inside. Find her quarters in the East Wing." Varric's eyebrows rise. "The East Wing? That's reserved for honored guests, not debt slaves. Did I ask for your opinion?" For a long moment, the brothers stare at each other. Something ugly flickers across Varric's face, there and gone like a snake in tall grass. "Of course not, my king." He bows, the gesture somehow mocking. "You never do." As Tavern leads her away, Sarah feels Varric's gaze boring into her back. She doesn't need to look to know his eyes hold promises. None of them kind. "That was Varric," Tavern says quietly once they're inside. "The king's younger brother. He ruled as regent for 3 years while Alpha King Kale was in exile." "Exile." The word slips out before she can stop it. Tavern's jaw tightens. Not my story to tell, but hear me, girl. He stops, turning to face her with unexpected intensity. Stay away from Varric. Whatever he says, whatever he offers, whatever he threatens, stay away. Sierra nods, her throat too tight for words. She's traded one prison for another, but this one has golden-eyed kings who carry her like something precious, and brothers whose smiles promise destruction, and she has no idea which danger will destroy her first. Weeks pass, and Sarah learns the rhythm of Blackmore. Dawn brings the thunder of combat training. Wolves snarling and clashing in the yards below her window. Midday sees the fortress bustling with purpose. Servants and warriors moving through corridors of dark granite with grim efficiency. Evening brings silence, heavy and watchful, as if the very walls hold their breath. She's given duties in the healing wing, grinding herbs and preparing poultices under the supervision of an ancient she-wolf named Marin. It's simple work, beneath her abilities, but she doesn't complain. Complaining draws attention, and attention in Blackmore feels dangerous. What she notices most is the suffering. Young wolves pushed past their limits in training, nursing injuries that could heal in hours with proper care, but instead fester for weeks. Warriors walking on broken bones because asking for help is weakness. Children who fall silent when adults approach, their eyes old beyond their years. Don't. Marin catches her staring at a young warrior struggling to lift his sword arm. Whatever you're thinking, don't. His shoulder is dislocated. I could help him. Help? Marin's laugh is bitter. In Blackmore, pain is the price of strength. We don't help wolves escape what makes them powerful. That's not strength. That's cruelty. The old healer's hand clamps on her wrist, surprisingly strong. Careful, pup, words like that will get you killed. The Alpha King may have placed you under his protection, but even he cannot shield you from everything. The mention of the king sends a strange flutter through Sierra's chest. She hasn't seen him since that first night, but she feels his presence everywhere. In the way servants whisper when she passes, in the careful distance warriors keep from her, in the questions no one asks but everyone seems to wonder. Why does he care about the debt slave from Thornwood? She wonders the same thing. That moment at the border haunts her dreams. The recognition in his eyes, the trembling of his hand, the whispered words meant only for her. It's you. What did he mean? And why does her wolf keen with longing every time she catches his scent lingering in the corridors? The answer comes on a night when the moon hangs full and heavy. Sarah wakes to screaming. She follows the sound through twisting corridors, her bare feet silent on cold stone. The screams lead her to the training yard, where torchlight illuminates a scene that stops her heart. A young girl, maybe 12, writhes on the ground. Her arm bends at an angle that makes Sierra's stomach lurch. Above her stands Varric, his boot pressing down on the girl's uninjured shoulder. Again, he commands another young trainee. Break her other arm, please, the girl sobs. Please, I'll be stronger, I promise. Strength isn't promised, it's proven. Varric's smile gleams in the torchlight. Break her. Sierra moves before thought catches up to instinct. Stop. Her voice rings across the yard, and every head turns toward her. Varric's eyebrows climb. The little debt slave speaks. How unexpected. She's a child. Sierra plants herself between Varric and the injured girl. Her pulse races against her ribs, but her voice holds steady. This isn't training. This is torture. This is Blackmore. Varric steps closer, and his scent washes over her. Wrong, her wolf growls. Threat. We forge strength through fire. Weaklings who can't endure don't deserve to survive. Then you'll have to go through me. The words shock her as much as everyone else. Varric's eyes narrow, and she sees death flickering in their pale depths. Bold words for a slave. His hand rises, claws extending. Perhaps you need a lesson in your place. Touch her and die. The king's voice cracks across the yard like thunder. Sierra turns to find KL striding toward them, his golden eyes blazing with fury. Power rolls off him in waves that make her knees weak, and every wolf in the yard drops into instinctive submission. Every wolf except Varric. Brother. He doesn't bow, doesn't flinch. I'm simply maintaining discipline. By torturing children? Kale stops between Sarah and Varric, his massive frame blocking his brother completely. We discussed this. You lectured. I listened. I disagreed. Varric's mask slips, revealing the hatred beneath. Your soft heart will doom this pack, Kale. Father knew it. That's why he chose me. Father is dead. And I am king. The silence that follows feels like the moment before a blade falls. Varek's smile returns, sharp and cold. For now, he turns and stalks away, his trainees scrambling after him. Sarah kneels beside the injured girl, her hands already beginning to glow with silver light. What are you doing? Kale's voice is sharp, healing her. Unless you'd rather she suffer through the night with a shattered arm? She doesn't look up, doesn't ask permission. The warmth flows from her palms into the girl's broken body, and she feels the bone knitting together, the torn muscles weaving back into place. When she finishes, the girl stares at her healed arm with wonder. Go, Sarah tells her gently. Find somewhere safe to sleep. The girl runs, and Sarah finally rises to face the king. She expects anger. She expects punishment for defying Blackmore's ways, for exposing her abilities, for challenging Varek publicly. Instead, she finds him staring at her with an expression that makes her breath catch. Wonder, gratitude, and underneath, burning so bright it almost hurts to witness. A longing so deep it could swallow worlds. You're a soul singer, he breathes. The stories are true, Sarah's heart stutters. How do you know what I am? Because I've been searching for you my entire life. The king's private study smells of leather and wood smoke and him. Sarah stands near the door, uncertain whether she's guest or prisoner. Kale moves to the fireplace, his back to her, shoulders tight with tension she doesn't understand. Sit, he says finally, please. The please catches her off guard. She settles into a chair near the hearth, watching flames dance across his shadowed profile. You asked how I know what you are. His voice is rough, like words dragged across gravel. When I was 7 years old, an oracle came to Blackmore. Sarah stays silent, barely breathing. She told my father that his eldest son was cursed. That darkness lived in my blood, a beast so savage it would one day consume me entirely. But there was hope. He turns, and the firelight catches the pain carved into his features. A soul singer would be born, she said. A wolf whose gift could reach the beast, could soothe what could not be tamed. She would carry the old healing magic in her blood, but more than that, she could touch the wounded places no medicine can reach. My mate, my salvation. The word mate sends electricity crackling down her spine. My father searched for years. Every omega, with even a hint of the gift, was brought to Blackmore and tested. None of them were right. None of them could touch the darkness. His laugh is hollow. Eventually, he gave up. Decided the oracle was wrong. Declared me unfit to rule and named Varek his heir instead. But you're king now. Because my father died, and our laws demand the eldest inherit regardless of his wishes. Varek had 3 years as regent to make this pack his own. Kale's hands clench at his sides. 3 years to poison them against me. 3 years to spread his philosophy of cruelty disguised as strength. Sarah processes this, pieces falling into place. The oracle. That's why you were at the border. You knew I would be there. I knew a soul singer was being traded from Thornwood. I didn't know it would be you. His amber gaze finds hers, and she sees vulnerability there that breaks something open in her chest. I didn't know that seeing you would feel like finally breathing after drowning for 30 years. Her pulse quickens until she's sure he can hear it. The bond, she whispers. At the border, I felt the mate bond. Yes. He moves closer, then stops himself, maintaining careful distance. I've felt it since the moment I scented you, every instinct screaming to claim you, protect you, mark you as mine. Sarah's wolf whines with desperate longing. But fear holds her frozen. Then why haven't you? Because I won't force a bond on someone who had no choice in coming here. His voice drops, raw and honest. You were sold like property, Sarah. Your freedom was stolen. I won't steal anything else from you, no matter what my wolf demands. The words hit her like a wave breaking over stone. In a world where alphas take what they want, where omegas exist to serve, this king stands before her and offers choice. Tears burn her eyes. She blinks them back. The darkness, the oracle mentioned, she says carefully. What is it? Kale's expression shudders. He turns back to the fire, and she watches tension climb his spine. My wolf is different, has been since birth. There's a rage in him that never sleeps, a violence that hungers for release. His voice drops to barely a whisper. Sometimes I can hear him howling in my mind, begging for blood, for destruction, for the satisfaction of tearing the world apart. And you've controlled him alone all this time? I had no choice. He turns to face her, and she sees the exhaustion beneath his strength. If he breaks free, people die. I've felt him slip twice in my life, and both times, he doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. Sarah rises from her chair, moving toward him without conscious thought. His eyes track her approach, wary and hungry in equal measure. I don't know if I can help you, she says honestly. I've never tried to reach a beast like that, but I'm willing to try, if you'll let me. She stops inches away, close enough to feel his heat, to see the rapid pulse at his throat. Why? The word seems torn from him. After everything Blackmore has taken from you, why would you help me? Because you carried me when I couldn't walk. Her hand rises to his chest, pressing against the steady thunder of his heart. Because you protected me from Varric when you owed me nothing. Because you're the first alpha in my life who asked what I wanted instead of simply taking. His eyes close, and she feels the shudder that runs through him. Sarah. Her name on his lips sounds like worship. If we do this, if you reach for my wolf, you'll see everything. Every dark corner, every terrible thing I've done and dreamed of doing. I won't be able to hide from you. Then don't hide. His eyes open, blazing gold in the firelight. For a moment, the air between them crackles with possibility. His hand rises, fingers hovering over her cheek. So close she can feel the warmth radiating from his skin. She leans in, just slightly. An invitation. A knock shatters the moment. Kale steps back so quickly she stumbles, cold rushing in where his warmth had been. His expression slams shut, the vulnerable man disappearing behind the mask of the king. Enter, he commands. His voice steady despite the storm she can see raging in his eyes. Tavrin appears in the doorway, his face grim. My king, forgive the interruption. There's a situation at the eastern border. Raiders from the Silver Fang pack. How many? 30 at least. They've taken hostages from one of our outer villages. Kale nods once. All business now. Assemble the war party. We ride within the hour. Tavrin vanishes, and Kale turns to Sarah one last time. When I return, he says quietly, we'll finish this conversation. And if you don't return, something flickers across his face. He crosses the distance between them in 2 strides, and before she can react, his lips brush her forehead. Brief, barely a touch, but it brands her all the same. Then the darkness won't matter anymore, he whispers against her skin, and then he's gone, leaving her alone with the fire and the echo of a promise neither of them had the courage to speak aloud. Outside the window, war drums begin to thunder. And somewhere in the fortress, Sarah feels certain that Varric is smiling. The fortress feels hollow without him. Sarah throws herself into work, grinding herbs until her fingers ache, and rolling bandages until her vision blurs. Anything to keep her mind from wandering to the eastern border, from imagining those amber eyes dimming in death. 3 days pass, then 5, then 7. On the 8th day, something shifts inside her. The careful walls she's built around her gift begin to crack. It starts small. A kitchen boy burns his hand on a pot, and before Sarah can think, silver light flows from her palms. The burn vanishes, and the boy stares at her with wonder instead of fear. Please, he whispers, don't tell anyone. But word spreads like fire through dry grass. They come to her in secret at first. A seamstress with fingers cramped from endless stitching. A stable hand kicked by a frightened horse. An elderly wolf whose joints ache with every step. Sarah heals them all, and with each healing, something miraculous happens. They smile, not the tight, fearful expressions she's grown accustomed to in Blackmore. Real smiles, warm and wondering, as if they've forgotten what joy feels like and are only now remembering. By the 2nd week, the secrecy becomes impossible to maintain. Warriors begin appearing at the healing wing with injuries they would have hidden before. At first, they come alone, glancing over their shoulders, ashamed of their need, but when they leave whole and pain-free, something in their eyes changes. Thank you, a grizzled fighter tells her, flexing a shoulder that had been frozen with old damage. I haven't been able to lift my sword arm properly in years. Strength isn't just enduring pain, Sarah says gently. It's knowing when to let someone help you. The warrior stares at her for a long moment. Then he nods slowly. and she sees understanding dawn. The transformation spreads beyond the healing wing. Laughter echoes in corridors that once knew only silence. Children play openly in the courtyards, their games no longer shadowed by fear of punishment. Even the training grounds shift, warriors helping fallen comrades to their feet, instead of mocking their weakness. Marin watches it all with something like awe. "I've served 5 alphas in this fortress," the old healer murmurs one evening. "Never seen anything like this." "You're changing them, girl. Changing everything." "I'm just healing wounds." "No." Marin shakes her head. "You're healing something much deeper than that." But not everyone welcomes the change. Sarah feels Varek's gaze following her everywhere now. He watches from shadowed doorways, from high balconies, his pale eyes tracking her movements with predatory patience. He never approaches, never speaks, but his hatred presses against her like a physical weight. She dreams of him some nights. Dreams of pale eyes and cold smiles and claws reaching for her throat. On the 15th day, the war party returns. Sarah hears the horns first, then the thunder of hooves on stone. She rushes to the courtyard with everyone else, her heart climbing into her throat as she searches the returning warriors for one face. There, Kael rides at the head of the column, his black armor dented and bloodied but his posture strong. Relief floods through her so intensely her knees nearly buckle. He's alive. He's home. Their eyes meet across the crowded courtyard, and she sees exhaustion in his gaze. But underneath, burning steady as a forge fire, she sees something else. He came back. For her. Then she notices the body draped across the horse behind him. Tavrin. She pushes through the crowd, reaching the fallen warrior just as others lift him down. Blood soaks through the bandages wrapped around his torso, and his face holds the gray pallor of approaching death. "Silver blade," Kael says, dismounting beside her. "The wound won't close. He's been fighting it for 3 days, but he doesn't finish. He doesn't need to. Bring him to the healing wing," Sarah commands, authority she didn't know she possessed ringing in her voice. Now, they work through the night. The silver poison fights her at every turn, burning through her healing light like water through sand. Sarah pours everything she has into Tavrin's broken body, chasing the corruption through his blood, his organs, and his failing heart. Kael stays beside her the entire time. He doesn't speak, doesn't interfere, and just sits in the corner with his head bowed and his hands clasped. Praying, she realizes. The Alpha King of Blackmore. Praying for his friend. Dawn breaks through the windows as Tavrin's breathing finally steadies. Color returns to his cheeks. The silver poison retreats, then dissolves entirely under the force of her will. Sarah collapses backward, utterly spent. Strong arms catch her before she hits the floor. Kael cradles her against his chest, and she feels his lips brush her hair. "You saved him," he breathes. "You saved my oldest friend. He matters to you," she whispers. "Of course I saved him." His arms tighten around her, and for one perfect moment, the world contains nothing but his warmth and his heartbeat, and the safety of his embrace. Then a slow clap shatters the silence. Varek stands in the doorway, his expression a mask of pleasant congratulation that doesn't reach his eyes. "How touching," he says. "The debt slave saves the day. Father must be rolling in his grave." "Varek." Kael's voice carries warning. "Don't worry, brother. I'm not here to cause trouble." Varek's smile widens. "I'm here to offer my congratulations. And to remind you that the council meets at sunset. There are matters to discuss. Important matters." He turns and disappears into the corridor, leaving cold silence in his wake. Sarah feels Kael's tension like a living thing. "What matters? Nothing you need to worry about." But his voice is too careful, too controlled. "Kael." He looks down at her, and she sees the weight he carries, the crown that crushes him more surely than any enemy's blade. "The council wants me to take a mate," he says finally. "A political alliance with the northern packs. Varek has been pushing for it since I returned from exile." Her breath catches. "And you?" "I told them I would never take a mate who wasn't my true bond." His burning gaze holds hers. "I told them I would wait forever if I had to." The words hang between them, heavy with meaning. Neither dares speak aloud. "Rest," Kael murmurs, setting her gently in a chair. "You've earned it." He strides from the room, and Sarah watches him go with an ache in her chest that has nothing to do with exhaustion. She doesn't see Varek lingering in the shadows of the corridor. She doesn't see his pale eyes narrow with calculation, and she doesn't see him smile. The summons comes 3 nights later. Sarah wakes to urgent knocking, finding a young servant trembling in her doorway. "Please, miss, there's been an accident in the lower levels. A child fell down the old mine shaft. She's trapped, badly hurt, and no one else can reach her." Sarah is moving before the girl finishes speaking, grabbing her cloak and following through twisting corridors that descend deep into the mountain. "Where are the guards?" she asks. "Why hasn't anyone told the king?" "The king is in council, we couldn't interrupt, and the child is fading fast." The servant's voice breaks. "Please, you're her only hope." They descend stairs Sarah has never seen before, passing through areas of the fortress that feel abandoned, forgotten. Dust coats every surface. Cobwebs stretch across doorways like burial shrouds. Unease prickles along her spine. "How much farther?" she asks. The servant doesn't answer. Sarah turns to find the girl gone, vanished like morning mist. In her place stands Varric, blocking the only path back to the surface. "Hello, little soul singer." His smile gleams in the torchlight. "So good of you to join me." Fear crashes through her like ice water. She backs away, but walls press close on every side. "There's no child, is there?" "There's no child," he confirms pleasantly. "Just you and me, and a conversation long overdue. The king will come looking for me." The king is in council, debating whether to accept a political mate or continue chasing a fantasy. Varric advances slowly, savoring her terror. "By the time he realizes you're missing, there won't be anything left to find." Sarah's hands rise, silver light flickering at her fingertips. "I'll fight you." "With what? Healing magic?" His laugh echoes off the stone. "You can't hurt me, little slave. You can only mend what's broken, and I intend to break quite a lot." He lunges. Sarah screams, throwing herself sideways as claws rake the air where her throat had been. She runs, but he's faster, cutting off every escape, hurting her deeper into the abandoned tunnels. "Did you really think you could change Blackmore?" Varric's voice follows her through the darkness. "Did you think your soft healing and gentle words could undo generations of strength? You're a disease. Soul singer, a weakness that must be cut out before it spreads." She bursts into a circular chamber and skids to a halt. Dead end. Walls rise on every side, trapping her like prey in a hunter's net. Varric appears in the doorway, blocking her last hope of escape. "My brother is weak," he says, advancing. "He always has been. That's why father chose me. That's why I should be king." His claws extend, gleaming wickedly. "Once you're gone, the darkness will consume him. He'll become the monster he was always meant to be, and I'll put him down like the rabid beast he is." "You're wrong." Sarah's voice shakes, but she forces the words out. "Kale isn't weak. Loving something doesn't make you weak. Love?" Varric spits the word like poison. "Love is a chain. A vulnerability. A weapon your enemies can use against you." He reaches for her throat. "Thank you for proving my point." His hand closes around her neck. The roar that answers shakes dust from the ceiling. Kale explodes through the chamber entrance, his shift incomplete, caught between man and beast. His eyes blaze gold fire, and the power rolling off him drives Sarah to her knees. "Brother." The word tears from his throat, more growl than speech. "Release her." Varric's grip tightens instead. "Or what? You'll kill me? Your own blood? If I have to." "You don't have it in you." But Sarah sees doubt flicker in Varric's pale eyes. "You've never had it in you. That's why father was wrong." Kale stalks forward, claws extending from fingers that have become half-paw. About everything, the brothers collide with the force of colliding storms. Sarah scrambles clear as they tear into each other, claws rending flesh, fangs seeking throats. The chamber fills with snarls and the copper scent of blood. They're evenly matched, she realizes, with growing horror. Varric has spent years preparing for this moment, training to kill the brother who stands between him and the throne. She sees the blade too late. It slides from Varric's boot, silver and deadly, coated with something that makes her wolf howl with recognition. Poison. The same silver poison that nearly killed Tavrin. "KL!" she screams. He turns at her voice. And that heartbeat of distraction costs him everything. The blade sinks between his ribs. Kale staggers, staring down at the silver hilt protruding from his chest. His golden eyes find Sarah's, and she sees shock there, and pain, and something that looks terrifyingly like goodbye. No. Varric breathes, his triumph curdling into horror. The blade went too deep, she realizes. He meant to wound, to weaken, but in the chaos of combat, he struck true. No, this wasn't. You were supposed to. Kale's hand shoots out, closing around his brother's throat. I'm sorry, he rasps, blood bubbling at his lips. I'm sorry I couldn't save you from yourself. His claws tear through Varric's chest in one savage motion. The younger brother crumples, dead before he hits the ground. And Kale follows, collapsing onto the stone floor as silver poison races through his veins. Sarah catches him before his head strikes stone, pulling him into her lap with strength born of desperation. No, no, no. She presses her glowing hands against the wound, but the poison is already spreading, turning his veins black beneath his skin. Stay with me. Kale, please, stay with me. His eyes flutter open, unfocused and dimming. Sierra. Her name on his dying lips sounds like a prayer. You were. Everything I waited for. Everything I. Don't. Tears stream down her face. Don't you dare say goodbye. I'm going to save you. The darkness, he whispers. It's so loud. Can't hold it. Much longer. His eyes roll back, and his body begins to convulse. Sarah feels the beast rising, the darkness the oracle warned about, finally breaking free of its chains. In seconds, there will be nothing left of the man she loves, unless she reaches him first. Sarah closes her eyes and lets go. Not of hope, of fear. Her consciousness pours into Kale like water into a vessel, following the silver threads of her healing magic deep into the core of him. She's never done this before, never dared to reach so far into another soul, but she's never loved someone like this before either. The landscape of his mind materializes around her. A frozen wasteland stretches to every horizon, ice and shadow and howling wind. And there, at the center of it all, she sees them, two wolves locked in eternal combat. One blazes gold, weakening with every passing moment, his light flickering like a candle in a hurricane. The other is darkness given form, massive and terrible, eyes like pits into oblivion. The beast. It turns toward her, and she feels its hunger like a crushing weight. This is what Kale has fought his entire life. This is the monster that lives in his blood, waiting for weakness, waiting to consume. Sierra walks toward it. The gold wolf howls warning, but she doesn't stop. The beast snarls, crouching to spring, but she doesn't run. I see you, she says softly, and her voice carries the power of every soul she's ever soothed, every wound she's ever healed. I see what you are. The beast lunges. She opens her arms and catches it. Silver light explodes through the frozen wasteland as she pours everything she has into the darkness. Not fighting it, not trying to destroy it, understanding it. You're not evil, she whispers, as the beast thrashes against her hold. You're afraid. You've been afraid since he was a child. Since you felt his pack die around you and knew you couldn't protect them. The thrashing slows. You became strong because the world demanded strength. You became savage because savagery meant survival. But you're not a monster. Her voice breaks on the words. You're just a wolf who never learned that it's safe to rest. The beast stills in her arms, and then, impossibly, it leans into her embrace. Silver light and shadow merge, gold and darkness weaving together into something new, something whole. The frozen wasteland begins to thaw, ice cracking, wind calming, the first hints of green pushing through barren soil. Sarah feels Kale's consciousness stirring, reaching for her across the healing bond. Sierra? His voice echoes through the shared space, confused and wondering. How? How did you? I found you, she says simply. Now come back to me. She opens her eyes to the real world. Kale lies in her arms, his breathing steady, and his skin warm. The silver poison recedes visibly, pushed back by the force of her healing, by the wholeness she helped him find. The wound in his chest closes, flesh knitting, scars forming and fading, his eyes open, golden, but somehow softer now, lighter. The darkness, he breathes. It's quiet. For the first time in my life, it's quiet. Tears spill down her cheeks. I told you I'd save you. His hand rises to cup her face, thumb brushing away her tears with impossible gentleness. You did more than save me. He pulls himself upright, and she sees the wonder in his expression. The disbelief of a man who spent his whole life carrying a burden that's suddenly lifted. You made me whole, KL. I love you. The words tumble out, raw and unguarded. I've loved you since the moment I scented you at the border. I've loved you through every moment of watching you heal my people, change my home, and prove that strength and gentleness aren't opposites. I love you, Sarah, and I don't want to spend another moment pretending I don't. She answers him the only way that matters. Her lips find his, and the kiss that follows contains everything words cannot hold. Relief and longing, grief and joy, the desperate gratitude of two souls that nearly lost each other. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, Kale rests his forehead against hers. Be my mate, he whispers. Not because you were traded here, not because of prophecy or debt or duty. Be my mate because you choose it, because you choose me. Yes. The word carries the weight of her whole heart. Yes, I choose you, I choose us. His smile transforms his face, all the sharp edges softening into something beautiful. Then let's go home. Spring comes to Blackmore, and with it, transformation. Where once there were only training grounds carved from blood and stone, gardens now bloom. Sarah established the first healing sanctuary, 3 months after becoming queen. A place where warriors and servants alike can seek care without shame. The ancient prejudice against healing fades slowly, but it fades. Children laugh openly now. The sound still startles some of the older wolves, unaccustomed to joy within these walls. But they're learning. Everyone is learning. Kale rules differently than any alpha before him. He still trains his warriors with exacting standards, still demands excellence, still projects strength that makes enemies think twice. But underneath the iron, there's compassion now. Mercy, understanding that true power lies not in how much pain you can inflict, but in how much you choose not to. The beast sleeps peacefully inside him, no longer fighting for control. Sometimes, in quiet moments, Sarah senses it stirring contentedly, like a hound warming itself by the fire. It's part of him still. Always will be. But it's no longer a monster to be feared. It's just another piece of the man she loves. On the night of the mating ceremony, the entire pack gathers beneath a full moon. Sarah stands before them in a gown of silver and midnight, her hair woven with mountain flowers. Kyle faces her in ceremonial black, his golden eyes bright with emotion he no longer tries to hide. Before the moon and the old gods, he speaks, his voice carrying to every ear. I claim this woman as my mate, my partner, my equal in all things. Before the moon and the old gods? Sarah answers, her voice steady despite the happy tears threatening to fall. I claim this man as my mate, my home, the other half of my soul. His teeth graze her throat. The claiming bite gentle but sure. She feels the bond snap into place, golden and warm, connecting them in ways that transcend words or touch. The pack howls their approval, voices rising toward the stars. Later, when the celebration quiets, and they stand alone on the balcony overlooking their transformed home, Kale pulls her close against his chest. Thank you, he murmurs into her hair. For what? For showing me what strength really means. For teaching this pack that healing isn't weakness, that kindness isn't surrender. He tips her chin up, warm amber eyes meeting hers. For finding me when I was lost in darkness and leading me back to the light. Sarah smiles, rising on her toes to press a kiss to his jaw. Thank you for waiting for me, she whispers. For not giving up. For believing I was worth 100 lifetimes of loneliness. 1,000 lifetimes, he corrects. 1,000,000. You would have been worth them all. Below them, Blackmore sleeps peacefully beneath the watching moon. No longer a fortress of fear and suffering, but something new. A home, a sanctuary, a place where strength and gentleness walk hand in hand, and love conquers even the deepest darkness. And in the Queen's Garden, where a soul singer plants healing herbs by moonlight,